Gem International is a new diamond explorer in the richest diamond-producing country in Africa, located next to the fourth largest producing diamond mine in the world. International Spotlight is on an 1109-carat diamond, recently discovered in Africa by a fellow Canadian junior, with a proven operator and finance team. Gem International trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol GI. Visit us at gemdiamondmining.com.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Rick Ackerman, editor of the newsletter Rick's Picks, his website, rickackerman.com. He's speaking to us from Colorado. Merry Christmas, Rick.
Merry Christmas to you, Jim, and Happy Hanukkah. We've got very seasonal weather right now. It's a bit of snow on the ground, and it's even the ski resort's got more than a dusting, so things are looking up for Colorado.
Well, Vancouver just had 2 major dumps of snow over the last 2 weeks, and it truly was a winter blunderland on Monday, with universities closed, transit stuck in the snow. They're not prepared for snow here at all. There's 2 guys in the back of a pickup truck that throw a little sand and salt around. They just wait for it to rain, and it is raining today, but there is a lot of snow for the rain to take out.
Uh-huh.
So, Rick, how would you sum up 2016 in the business world from your point of view?
Well, we've had a signal change with the election. The oddity being that election night itself, the Dow futures were down the equivalent of 900 points. And since then, we've had a Dow rally amounting to about 2,600 points. So something is definitely in the air, and I think I call it the Trump-Santa rally. It's hard to know what part of it is just seasonality and what part of it is positive expectations for things that Trump might do. But there's a lot of things in the pipeline based on his appointments that seem really positive for the business environment. For one, he's picked people to head various agencies that regulate us who have been anti-regulation for a lot of years, and they not only have the ability to get rid of a lot of these rules that saddle business, but they've got the will to do it. And there's also the prospect of a repeal of the largest tax ever levied on the American middle class. And I'm referring, of course, to Obamacare, which has benefited a relative few at the expense of the many. So I think these are prospectively very positive developments for business, for the business climate in the U.S., and I think that's why the market's been in a festive mood since the election.
It is the big question now. Can that festive mood be supported by action in the new year?
Well, I think it almost definitely will be. Trump, it wasn't just bluffing. I think he means to do what he said he would do. But I think the more important question is, will he be able to do enough, and will it be too late? We've had enough of an increase in interest rates that there's been a 75 basis point skew in the 30-year mortgage, and that's a pretty big blow. I mean, it's certainly going to sap the energy from home purchases, and it's already killed the refi market. So both of those things are really crucial to the economy, and you can see, though, that there's enough that the rate increase that's taken place so far is going to put a very serious damper on the housing market. So I don't know how you can turn that around, but it's obviously crucial to the state of the economy next year.
Do governments seriously underestimate the impact of real estate? The numbers I hear in Canada, I'm sure they're similar in the U.S., where something like 28% of your economy is wrapped up in real estate.
Well, government kowtows to real estate to the extent that all the tax benefits are skewed toward mortgage borrowing. It's no wonder that we've got housing inflation, because for so many years people had this idea that whatever you put into a house, or however much you overpay for it, or however much bigger the house is than what you need, it doesn't matter. You'll get bailed out at some point because the value of the home will go up. And of course, the borrowing that you used to buy the home was tax deductible. So, we very heavily skewed investment toward real estate instead of, let's say, productive assets, capital. And that's why we're, under Trump, really going to have to play catch up with our manufacturing sector and other areas of the economy that haven't been blessed with with the mortgage deduction.
Well, in Canada, your principal residence mortgage interest is not tax deductible. On the other hand, you don't have to pay tax when you sell your principal residence. So that's supposed to be the trade-off. And I'd like your opinion on this. The government of British Columbia has just come up with, for new homeowners, they can get an interest-free loan of up to $37,500. Now, of course, that means provincial taxpayers are on the hook for that if they default. And should governments be going around helping people to buy houses? Because I'm sure the government didn't help you buy your house or help me buy my house.
Well, you know what? The subsidy is there in many forms. In the U.S., it exists to the extent that Fannie Mae and Freddie were securitizing mortgages and able to offer lower rates than they might have been in a completely, let's say, in a capitalistic system, in a free market. So, it's hard. It's hard to kind of break out these subsidies. You even look at Europe, where they say, hey, we get free health care and free college, but trust me, they're paying for it. And so, it's going to happen in any case. And I'm enough of a free market guy that I say do away with it all. Get the tax form down to a single page, and everything will work out. I would even be willing to give up the deductibility of mortgage interest just to put the supply and demand for capital on a free market basis.
Well, let the open market decide things. I mean, my question is, we always talk about, a free and fair market, but take a look at the stock markets, quantitative easing. Now, wasn't that just a big government subsidy to big business?
More than a subsidy, it was really an incentive to make money hand over fist with funds that you could borrow for practically nothing. And, you can see the dysfunction of it all with these companies that have really tens of billions of dollars in money they don't know what to do with, the cash reserves, and they still go into the bond markets and borrow more because the rates are so low, and they'll tell you, well, we do it because we can. So we've created such a and of course, the fund managers are all saying, look at what a great year I had, but it really owes everything to this fact of quantitative easing, of money being available in promiscuous quantities to any of the big players who want to throw it at stocks. So everything's pretty screwed up, but yes, they owe it all to the fine hand of government.
Well, shouldn't they have put a condition on this money? You can't use it just to buy back your own shares. You actually have to build some physical assets or perhaps hire more people to show that you're putting this money to work.
That's just one more rule, and when you start splitting hairs over that phrase, putting that money to work, and you get some congressional committee defining what kind of work should money be doing, it's just, you throw up your hands and you say, well, just let things kind of play out as they will right now, and I don't know, maybe someday we'll get around to tackling the larger problem.
Well, of course, one of the reasons why people in Britain voted to get out of the European Union was the European Union's propensity for bringing up rules and regulations that were totally unnecessary, something like over 100 regulations over the manufacture of a pillow.
Right, they were regulated to death, and even we in the U.S., who were regulated just to the point of being comatose, could look and just kind of shake our heads and think, what are they doing to themselves? But Britain's Britain's exit obviously did not have the catastrophic implications for the EU that were predicted. More like they've at least kind of freed one country up to act in a way that is, let's say, well, it's freed up British capital, and it's made Britain at least one aspect of European commerce that's more free market than the rest of it.
Well, I think the bottom line for the British was, first of all, the EU declared their beloved red double-decker buses illegal, and they also told them what they could and could not eat for breakfast. And what we call a normal breakfast, if you go to England and they sell it to you at a hotel, it's a traditional English breakfast, which for most North Americans is what you have for breakfast.
Well, I've had some pretty good breakfasts in Britain, and I think that part of it runs pretty well. You know, they always had tourism down, but I think it's easier now for Britain to function in, let's say, more lucrative areas of global commerce. Unfortunately, a lot of that, Britain has become a financial center, mainly because London was a less regulated place to do business after the great financial crash took the mortgage market down, mortgage securities down in the U.S. So everybody sort of moved the action to London, where there were almost no rules at all. So it's one of those ironies that the place where you have the least regulation, namely in the financial sector, is where you get the bubble.
Well, also, too, per capita, London has the most billionaires in the world.
Yeah, and it was because of the very favorable tax treatment. You could come to London and not be considered by the UK, British government, a taxable entity. You could sort of come there as a Russian billionaire and be free and clear of taxes that might be levied against you in your new chosen home. So Britain has been very generous. I don't know how the legislation has played out over the last year, but they were trying to tighten up on the billionaires, and of course that was a factor in the I won't call it the collapse of the London real estate market, but it's certainly come off its highs.
We'll have more with Rick Ackerman right after the break.
I'm Larry Ray, President and CEO of American Manganese, Inc., listed on the TSX Venture, ticker symbol AMY, A-M-Y, with proprietary patents in the U.S., China, and South Africa. Our focus is on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. China recently legislated the responsibility for recycling onto their electric vehicle manufacturers and importers. For more information, please visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Rick Ackerman, and going back to London. There's only two kinds of people who live in the city of London, or Westminster as they call it. During the day, there's 3 or 4 million people there, but overnight, only about 5,000 people actually live in Westminster. And the only people that have homes there are either on welfare, so the government pays the mortgage, or they're billionaires who declare that they have no discernible income in Britain. So the government also pays their mortgages because it's cheaper than building social housing. So. Well,
it sounds just a bit like New York, Jim.
Well, yeah, there's a reason why certain people are in certain big cities. So taking a look at the new year, Trump promising that he'll cut the number of regulations. Now, that doesn't mean, of course, that everything will be regulation free, does it?
No, it doesn't. But we can get closer to that than you think, because it doesn't necessarily come down to whether a regulation is on the books or not, but more whether the regulation is enforced. And I think it is through lack of enforcement that we're going to escape the regulatory noose much more quickly than anybody might anticipate. And in some other areas, the prospects are so positive, like with the FCC. We've had the FCC under the iron fist of a guy who has basically chosen to regulate the Internet as you would, an electric and gas company. And we're instantly done away with that burden, and it clears the way for investment in internet, telecommunications infrastructure. So some of these benefits will be instant, and again, you don't really have to expunge the rules. You can choose to not enforce them or to enforce certain rules and not others.
How do you go about picking what rules are good and which rules are bad?
Well, it's like pornography, I may not know exactly scientifically how to define it, but I can sure tell you when I'm looking at it, and rules are the same way. I think you get a pretty good sense of which ones are the stupidest and, which ones are liable to bring out protesters, and it's not going to be fine shades of distinction doing away with the rules that are most onerous.
Well, you can always tell when a government is out to get you when they charge you with illegally moving a vehicle because you didn't have a flagman carrying a red lantern in front of it at night. I mean, those laws are still on the books. They never took them off.
Well, that's true. A lot of those rules, I think, if there's going to be any fight, it'll come from rules that are there. Let's say trade rules that protect union labor. In some cases, that's not unwarranted. I'm not totally on the side of the capitalists, and I see a lot of scoundrels who have made billions while, out there in the trenches, the workers are, they're giving it their all. So, in any case, I think we will come to these rules on a case-by-case basis, and you're going to see the U.S. economy loosen up a great deal.
Well, for example, rules about what color of pen you have to use to fill out a form. I had something returned because all I had was a green pen. It wasn't black, and they returned it because the color of the ink was wrong.
Actually, yeah, I've run up against that ink color problem myself, and I can understand the no black ink because you can't distinguish black ink from a photocopy. But, if that's the case, then your green or your red or whatever should be just fine, shouldn't it?
Well, exactly. I mean, you use what's at hand. So that's just a minor example, but anybody's filled out a government form and 3 days later after their wrist is ready to break, you understand overregulation is a big problem.
Well, I don't feel it personally. I know that we're living in a nanny state and everything's overregulated. I guess, where the impact is something I can discern, it would probably be indirectly in the types of health care insurance that are available for my family. We can get certain plans, but not others. We've had to shop for a different plan maybe 4 or 5 times just in the last few years because these plans didn't somehow meet the Obamacare requirements. But most immediately, the only place I get regulated is by the Homeowners Association, and I think the rules, for the most part, are reasonable. I've got to keep the house looking in good condition, got to keep the lawn cut and the fence painted and all that. So, I think you really have to be in business to feel the heavy hand of regulation.
Well, I live in a condo, and yeah, it's the same thing. The one regulation I don't like at the condo is we're not allowed to put any kind of flag out. So on Canada Day, I really want to put my Canadian flag out, but I can't.
Well, here in the U.S., you could just wave the flag on your First Amendment rights, and there shouldn't be a problem. You'd have even the ACLU behind you.
Well, I'm sure I probably have the democratic right to put it out there too, but I don't want to have to deal with my condo council.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, because they can make your life miserable.
Well, all they can do here is make sure you put the trash out on Monday morning, but we should have such a light regulatory burden in all walks of life.
Well, to regulation, when it comes to safety, now there is a reason, why you can't have, green signal lights on your car or something like that.
Well, I've got on a ladder, the house ladder that I use up at the top, above the top rung. There's this little thing that says "Don't stand on this last step here, and I'm thinking it's not quite as dumb as the cigarette package labeling and stuff like that, because I can just imagine how many accidents happen around homes where they just needed that extra foot higher on the ladder, and they got up on the highest rung and kaput.
Or, okay, they don't want to stand on the highest rung, so they go and put a couple of loose bricks underneath it.
Yeah, where you have implements, tools like that, I guess you really can't overlabel them for safety. I just got a notice from Samsung. I bought a Samsung washing machine, and apparently when you put something in that retains water, like a waterproof surface, when it goes into the spin cycle, the water gets trapped and it throws the washer out of balance. And there's this little diagram that shows what happens. It basically pops the whole top of the washer up in your face and kills you. And so this is a house that I have as a rental property down in Florida, and they sent me a little sticker to put on the new, where it says, the different cycles and all. They sent a decal that I can put on it that's got a real obvious danger setting for, it tells you that when you put bedding and some other things in the washer, you only want to use it on a particular setting.
Yes, well, Samsung washers are known to blow, or dryers are known to blow up because of that.
Are they? I mean,
there's a recall.
I'm looking at the Consumer Reports buying guide for 2017, and there's a whole bunch of Samsung washers that seem to have gotten, high ratings. But I guess this guide was published before so you're aware of a Samsung washer recall?
Yes, well, yeah, I've seen photos and video of the things all ripped apart. They can't handle unbalanced loads. They do a great job of washing and drying, but don't ever overload it.
Okay, well, I expect that I've got to send my tenants this decal, the sticker for the washing machine, and instruct them. Otherwise, I'm the one who gets sued besides Samsung if there's a problem. Yeah,
so their phones blow up and catch fire, and their washer dryers like to explode as well.
Well, I never bought into that. I've got a Samsung Galaxy phone, not the expensive one, a cheapie, about $200, and there have been no problems. And I tend to, I don't completely ignore some of these recall notices that I get, but sometimes they seem just a little bit overbearing. It's like there's a safety issue with everything you get, and sometimes it gets really out of hand, like with remember the runaway Toyota business?
Yes.
Well, Toyota's only building the best car in the world for the price, and here were some Americans mainly who saw an instant avenue for quick cash backed by some shyster lawyers. The idea was that they were all going to sue Toyota for these runaway cars where the accelerator pedal stuck or something like that. And of course nobody really proved anything, and Toyota got socked with huge fines. It cost them a ton, but like I said, all they ever did was build a great car.
Well, Rick, I hope your Toyota, if you have one, stays together for you. Because I had one too. A mechanic told me the best engines in the world, they might leak a little oil, are probably Toyota engines. They're like tanks. You can't stop them. Well,
that's interesting. My Toyota's a Lexus, and it's an oldie. I've got a 2000. That makes it. It's going on 17 years old, and I have developed a little bit of a leak, but a drop here, a drop there. I'm not going to tear the engine down for $2,000 just to fix the oil pan, and so it's been a great car.
Rick, all the best of the season.
And the same to you, Jim.
My guest has been Rick Ackerman, editor of the newsletter Rick's Picks, his website, rickackerman.com. You're listening to HowStreet.com radio. You can find us on Twitter at Talk Digital Net. If you like YouTube, we're on Talk Digital Network. Questions for the show can be sent to info@HowStreet.com. I'm Jim Goddard.
Comments made on HowStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com radio is a production of How Street Media Incorporated.